My name is Linda Martinez, and at 68 years old, I thought I'd earned the right to enjoy my retirement in peace. I spent 42 years as a financial advisor, helping families protect their assets and plan for their futures. I'd seen every trick in the book when it came to money and family dynamics. I just never imagined I'd need to use that knowledge to protect myself from my own daughter. I live alone now. My husband David passed 3 years ago after a brief battle with cancer, leaving me our paid-off home in Phoenix and a comfortable inheritance from the financial planning practice we'd built together. Nothing extravagant, just enough to live well and travel a bit. The house has 4 bedrooms, way too much space for one person, but it's filled with memories I'm not ready to let go of yet. I swim every morning, volunteer at the library twice a week, and I'm sharper with a spreadsheet than people half my age. My daughter Jessica is 39, married to Brandon for 8 years. They have 2 kids, Emma who's 6 and Tyler who's 4. I love those grandchildren more than anything. Jessica works as a marketing consultant, Brandon's in real estate, and from the outside, they seem to have it all together. New cars every few years, annual trips to Hawaii, the kids in private school. I'd always been proud of how well they were doing. But then David died, and things started to shift. It began small. Jessica calling more often, asking detailed questions about my finances. "Mom, are you sure you're managing everything okay? It's a lot for one person." Dropping by, unannounced to check on me. Comments about how I shouldn't be living alone at my age, how the house was too big, too much maintenance. I'm 68, not 98. I still drive. I still work part-time consulting for my old firm. I still have a life. 6 months after David's funeral, Jessica suggested I might want to add her name to my bank accounts. "Just in case something happens, Mom, so I can help manage things." I'd spent 4 decades advising clients never to do that, and I wasn't about to start now. I told her I had everything properly structured with my attorney, beneficiaries updated, power of attorney documents in place if I ever needed them. She didn't like that answer. Then came the hints about moving in. The kids would love to see Grandma every day. "You have all that space. We could save so much on rent." I'd explained, gently, that I valued my independence and privacy, that I loved having them visit, but needed my own space. The hints became pressure. The pressure became demands. By November, Jessica had stopped asking and started telling me what was going to happen. They were selling their rental, moving into my house, and I should be grateful for the company. When I said no, firmly this time, she accused me of being selfish, of not caring about my grandchildren's future, of choosing myself over family. That's when I realized this wasn't about concern for their aging mother. This was about money. I started paying closer attention. I pulled my credit report and found 2 hard inquiries I hadn't authorized. Someone had tried to open a credit card in my name. I checked my bank's security logs and discovered multiple failed login attempts from an IP address in Jessica's neighborhood. I reviewed my home security camera footage and saw Brandon walking around my backyard, looking in windows when they thought I wasn't home. I called my attorney, Margaret Chen. She'd handled my estate planning for 20 years and had become a friend. "Linda," she said carefully, "what you're describing sounds like the beginning of financial exploitation. I see this too often. Adult children who feel entitled to their parents' assets before they're gone. That's exactly what it is," I told her, "and I need to protect myself." We made a plan. Updated my will to put everything in an irrevocable trust that Jessica couldn't contest. Changed all my passwords and added 2-factor authentication, set up alerts on every account. Margaret even suggested I get everything documented before the situation escalated further. "They're going to push harder," she warned me. "When financial predators feel their access slipping away, they often become more aggressive." She was right. Christmas dinner. I'd been hosting it at my house for 30 years, and despite everything, I wanted to maintain some normalcy for the grandchildren. Jessica, Brandon, and the kids arrived at 4, carrying presents and wearing smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. My son Michael came with his wife Amy and their teenage boys. Michael's a teacher, level-headed, Never asked me for anything he hadn't earned himself. The contrast between my two children had never been clearer. Dinner went smoothly at first. Turkey, stuffing, my mother's cranberry sauce recipe. The kids were excited about dessert. I was refilling wine glasses when Jessica cleared her throat. Mom, Brandon and I have an announcement. Here it comes, I thought. We've decided to move in after New Year's. We found a buyer for our rental property and it just makes sense. This house is way too big for you alone, and the kids need more space. The table went silent. Michael's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Jessica, I said calmly, we've discussed this. I'm not looking for roommates. It's not about roommates. It's about family, Brandon interjected. Your daughter and grandchildren want to be close to you. Most people would be grateful. I am grateful for many things, I replied, keeping my voice steady. But this is my home, and I'm choosing to live here alone. Jessica's face flushed red. You're being completely unreasonable. You have 4 bedrooms sitting empty. They're my bedrooms in my house that my husband and I paid for over 30 years. That's selfish, Mom. Completely selfish. We're family, and you're choosing your independence over your own grandchildren. Michael spoke up. Jess, that's not fair. Mom's not obligated to. Stay out of this, Jessica snapped at her brother. This doesn't concern you. Actually, it does concern all of us if you're going to bully Mom at Christmas dinner. Brandon stood up, his chair scraping loudly against my hardwood floors. Nobody's bullying anyone. We're trying to help Linda, and she's being stubborn and ungrateful. I'm 68, not 88, I said firmly. I swim a mile every morning. I still consult for my former firm. I manage a portfolio that most people would need a team to handle. I don't need help, and I certainly don't need to be talked about like I'm not sitting right here. Fine. Jessica stood too, grabbing her wine glass. If you're going to act like this, if you're going to put yourself before your family, then maybe you should just admit you don't actually care about us at all. That's not what this is about, and you know it. No, I think it's exactly what this is about. You'd rather sit alone in your big empty house than make room for your daughter and grandchildren. That's the truth, isn't it? You just don't want us here. I want boundaries, Jessica. There's a difference between not wanting you in my life and not wanting you to move into my home without my consent. That's when she threw the wine. I saw her arm move but didn't have time to react. Cold, red liquid hit my face. My hair splashed across my white silk blouse. The glass itself missed me, shattering against the wall behind my chair. The room erupted. Michael jumped up. Amy gasped. The children started crying. Brandon just stood there, arms crossed, looking satisfied. I wiped wine from my eyes and looked at my daughter. She was breathing hard, face twisted in anger I'd never seen before. How dare you, she hissed. How dare you choose yourself over us? I stood up slowly, wine dripping down my face onto my grandmother's tablecloth. My hands were steady. My voice was steady. I felt completely calm in a way that surprised even me. Get out of my house. Mom, get out, now, all of you. I looked at Brandon. And if you ever step foot on my property again, without explicit permission, I will call the police. Jessica laughed, bitter and sharp. You're going to regret this. You're going to die alone in this house, and we won't be there. Is that what you want? What I want is for my daughter to leave before I file assault charges. She grabbed Emma and Tyler, who were both crying now, confused by what they'd witnessed. Brandon followed, pausing at the door. This isn't over, Linda. We're not going anywhere. Michael and his family stayed behind, helping me clean up the broken glass, the wine stains. Amy kept apologizing, even though none of it was her fault. I can't believe she did that, my son kept saying. I can't believe my sister just assaulted our mother. Believe it, I said quietly. I saw it coming. I just didn't want to believe it myself. After they left, I sat alone in my dining room, still wearing my wine-stained blouse, and pulled out my phone. I texted Margaret. It escalated. Physical assault. Need to move forward with everything we discussed. Her response came immediately. Document everything. Photos of the damage, the clothes, your face if there's any redness. Check your security cameras. I'll file for a restraining order first thing tomorrow. I took photos. My ruined blouse, the stain on the wall, the broken glass I'd collected. My face, still red where the wine had hit. Then I pulled up my security camera app. I have cameras at every entrance, in the main living areas, covering the backyard. I'd installed them after David died, not because I was afraid of burglars, but because I was a woman living alone and wanted to feel secure. I'd never imagined I'd need them to protect myself from my own child. The footage was clear. Audio and video, crystal clear. Jessica's accusations, her escalating anger, the moment she threw the wine, Brandon's smug expression, all of it documented. I downloaded the files and backed them up 3 different places. Then I looked at the older footage, the clips I'd saved from the past few months. Brandon in my backyard when I wasn't home. Jessica trying my door handles, both of them peeking in windows. Someone, I couldn't see who, attempting to enter through the back gate with what looked like a key. The pattern was unmistakable. My phone rang. Jessica. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. After the 5th call, I listened to the messages. The first was apologetic. "Mom, I'm so sorry, I don't know what came over me. Please forgive me. Can we talk?" The second was defensive. "I wouldn't have done that if you hadn't been so unreasonable. You pushed me to that point." The third was angry again. "You're really going to choose this? Fine. Don't expect to see your grandchildren again. You're dead to us." The fourth was Brandon's voice. "Linda, we need to discuss your finances. You're not managing things properly, and Jessica is your heir. We have a right to know what's going on with our future inheritance. Call me back." The fifth was chilling. "You can't keep us out forever. That house is as much Jessica's as it is yours. Dad would have wanted us to have it." I saved all of them. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept going over everything, every conversation, every red flag I'd noticed and dismissed. The way Jessica had started asking about my will right after the funeral, Brandon's comments about how much my house must be worth. The time they'd asked for a small loan of $50,000 for a business investment that I knew, from my professional experience, was a terrible idea. When I'd offered to review their finances and help them budget instead, they'd gotten angry and accused me of not trusting them. Because I didn't. Not anymore. The next morning, Margaret called. "I've filed for a restraining order. The judge will review it this afternoon. Given the assault, the threatening messages, and the evidence of attempted unauthorized access to your property, I'm confident we'll get a temporary order at minimum. What about the credit card applications? The login attempts? We'll file a police report for identity theft and attempted fraud. The IP address evidence is solid. Linda, this is elder financial abuse. It's a crime, and we're going to treat it as such." "She's my daughter," I said, though I didn't know why. As if that changed anything. "I know, and I'm sorry. But she's also someone who assaulted you in your own home and is actively trying to steal from you. The law doesn't care about the relationship, and frankly, neither should you at this point." She was right. I'd spent my career advising clients to protect themselves, to set boundaries, to document everything when family members became financially abusive. I'd seen this story 100 times. I just never thought I'd be living it. By afternoon, I had a temporary restraining order. Jessica and Brandon had to stay at least 500 feet from me and my property. They were forbidden from contacting me directly. Any communication had to go through attorneys. Jessica violated it within 3 hours, showing up at my door with the children. I watched through my security camera as she rang the doorbell repeatedly, the kids looking confused and tired. "Mom, please, we need to talk." I brought Emma and Tyler. They missed their grandma, using the children as leverage. Classic manipulation tactic. I called the police from inside the house. They arrived within 10 minutes. I watched from my window as an officer explained the restraining order to my daughter as she argued and cried and pointed at my house. As Brandon pulled up, got out of his car, started yelling at the officers. as both of them were eventually told that if they didn't leave immediately, they'd be arrested for violating a court order. Emma and Tyler watched all of it from the back seat. That broke my heart more than anything else. They didn't deserve any of this. After they left, one of the officers came to my door. Young guy, probably in his 30s, respectful. "Miss Martinez, I need to take a statement about the assault on Christmas." I invited him in, showed him the photos, the video footage, the threatening messages. He took notes, asked questions. "How long has this been going on?" 6 months of escalation. But looking back, I can see signs from right after my husband died 3 years ago. He nodded, like he'd heard this before. Financial exploitation of elders is more common than people think. Usually it's family members. They justify it because they think they're entitled to the money eventually anyway. That's exactly what my attorney said. "Your attorney's right. I'm going to file this report, and the detective will probably want to talk to you about the identity theft attempts. With this much evidence, the DA might press charges." "I don't want to press charges against my daughter," I said automatically. He looked at me with kind but serious eyes. "Ma'am, with respect, it's not entirely up to you. Assault is a crime the state prosecutes, and the financial crimes, those are serious. If they're willing to do this to you, they're likely doing it to others." After he left, I sat in my quiet house and cried for the first time since it all started. Not because I regretted protecting myself, but because I mourned the daughter I thought I had. The one who would never have done this. The one who existed before money and entitlement twisted her into someone I didn't recognize. Michael called that evening. "Mom, I heard about the restraining order. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, honey. I'm doing what I need to do. Jessica's posting on social media, saying you cut her off, that you're being manipulated by your lawyer, that you're showing signs of dementia and refusing help." I felt my jaw tighten. Dementia. Of course. The ultimate excuse to declare someone incompetent and take control of their assets. I had a cognitive assessment done last month as part of my annual physical. Sharp as ever. Margaret has the results on file. Let her post whatever she wants. The truth is documented. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry my sister is doing this to you." "So am I, sweetheart. So am I." The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings. The detective assigned to my case found evidence that Jessica and Brandon had been planning this for months. Text messages between them discussing my assets and how to gain access before I did something stupid with my money. They'd even consulted with an attorney about having me declared incompetent. That attorney had apparently told them they had no grounds, which is probably why they'd escalated to direct confrontation. The credit card applications? Brandon. The login attempts? Jessica's laptop. They'd even tried to forge my signature on a quitclaim deed to transfer the house into Jessica's name. Fortunately, my bank had flagged it as suspicious and called to verify. When I said I hadn't signed anything, they'd stopped the transaction and reported the fraud attempt. Margaret presented everything to the district attorney. "Linda, they're offering Jessica and Brandon a plea deal. If they admit to the assault and cease all contact, agree to permanent restraining orders, and pay restitution for the legal fees, the DA will drop the fraud charges. And if they don't take it, then this goes to trial. They could face jail time for the identity theft, the forgery, the fraud attempts. The assault charge alone could get Jessica up to 6 months." I thought about Emma and Tyler, about them visiting their mother in jail, about them growing up with this story. "What do you recommend?" "I recommend you let them take the plea. Not for their sake, but for yours. A trial would be exhausting, public, painful. This way, you get legal protection, financial compensation, and you can move on with your life." They took the plea. Jessica wrote a statement admitting she'd assaulted me. Brandon admitted to the fraud attempts. They agreed to permanent restraining orders, 500 feet, no contact except through attorneys. They paid $40,000 in restitution for my legal fees, and they had to attend counseling for financial abuse behaviors. I never heard from them directly again. But I did hear from Emma, years later. She was 16, Found me on social media, sent a message. Grandma Linda, it's Emma. I know Mom and Dad said we're not supposed to talk to you, but I'm old enough now to make my own decisions. I remember what happened that Christmas. I remember Mom throwing wine at you. She's told us a different story over the years, but I remember the truth. Can we talk? We met for coffee. She'd grown into a thoughtful, intelligent young woman. We talked for 3 hours. I told her my side, showed her some of the documentation, explained why I'd done what I did. She cried and told me she understood, that she'd seen the same patterns in her parents' behavior toward her, the manipulation, the entitlement, the belief that they deserved things they hadn't earned. I'm going to college next year, she said. I'm paying for it myself with scholarships and loans. Mom and Dad keep trying to control me with money, saying they'll pay if I do what they want. But I learned from you, Grandma. I learned that independence is worth more than money, and that people who really love you don't weaponize their help. That's when I knew the story had come full circle. That the hardest decision I'd ever made, cutting off my own daughter to protect myself, had actually taught my granddaughter the most important lesson she'd ever need. I'm 73 now. I still live alone in my house, though I've downsized to a smaller place that's easier to maintain. I still swim every morning, still consult for my old firm, still manage my own finances. I see Emma regularly. Tyler reached out when he turned 18, too. They both call me, visit me, have a relationship with me separate from their parents. Jessica sends cards sometimes, through her attorney. Birthday cards, Christmas cards. They're always the same, thinking of you, hoping we can reconcile. But there's never an acknowledgement of what actually happened, never an apology that doesn't come with a justification, never accountability. Margaret says that's common. People who commit financial abuse against family members rarely take full responsibility. In their minds, they were entitled to it. They rewrite the narrative to make themselves the victims. I've learned a lot in these 5 years. I've learned that setting boundaries isn't selfish, that protecting your assets from exploitation isn't greedy, that you can love someone and still refuse to be their victim. That being 68, 73, or any age doesn't mean you surrender your autonomy or your right to make decisions about your own life. I've also learned that the hardest word to say is often the most necessary one. No. Just no. Without justification, without apology, without guilt. My friends, women my age, they ask me sometimes how I did it, how I cut off my own daughter. Wasn't it hard? They ask. Don't you miss her? Of course it was hard. Of course I miss the daughter I thought I had. But I don't miss the person she became. And I don't regret protecting myself from her. Because here's what I tell them, what I wish I could tell every older person facing this situation. You spent your entire life working for what you have. You earned it, you saved it, you built it. You don't owe it to anyone, including your children, to surrender it because they demand it. Your value isn't measured by how much you give away or how much you sacrifice yourself. Your value is intrinsic, and you have every right to protect it. The warning signs are always there if you're willing to see them. The pressure to add names to accounts, the suggestions that you're not capable of managing alone, the guilt trips about being selfish or not caring about family, the testing of boundaries to see what they can get away with, the escalation when you say no. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Get legal help before you need it. And most importantly, remember that being a good parent doesn't mean being a doormat. It means teaching your children, even adult children, that boundaries exist and actions have consequences. I still think about that Christmas sometimes. The moment the wine hit my face, the shock, the anger, the strange calm that came over me. I think about how I could have responded differently, how I could have backed down, let them move in, given in to the pressure, how my life would look now if I'd chosen peace over protection. And I'm grateful every single day that I chose myself, that I valued my independence and my autonomy enough to fight for them, that I refused to become another statistic of elder financial abuse. Because at the end of the day, the only person who will always advocate for you is you. The only person who will always protect your interests is you. The only person responsible for your well-being is you. And that's not selfish. That's survival. If you're facing something similar, please know you're not alone. There are resources, legal protections, people who understand. Elder financial abuse is a crime, not a family matter. Assault is assault, even when it comes from your child. And you have every right to protect yourself, regardless of what anyone says. Set the boundaries, have the hard conversations, document everything, get legal help. And remember that choosing yourself isn't abandonment, it's self-preservation. I'm Linda Martinez. I'm 73 years old. I swim every morning, manage my own life, and I'm not anyone's victim. That's my story. And I'm sharing it because I know I'm not the only one who's lived it. Don't wait until the wine hits your face. Protect yourself now. You deserve to live the retirement you earned in peace, dignity, and security. Don't let anyone, not even family, take that from you.